Hi, welcome to the Nocturnal Space Workshop. I'm Trezh and I'm going to be starting a brand new Chaos Space Marine army. This comes from a modelling idea that I had about 10 months ago now, which is that each model has to start off as a metal miniature that I convert to be part of the army. I'm calling the army the Ironbone Lords, Ironbone being because they're all metal miniatures. So I spent the last few months going on eBay, gathering up, stockpiling metal miniatures that I could then use as part of the army. Now that I feel I'm in a position where I can actually go ahead with the project, so I'm going to be starting with a squad of legionaries. I'm going to be swapping out the bolt guns for close combat weapons, or the chainswords, but the special weapons, because this is going to be an anti-infantry squad, but I'm not really much of a gamer, I could do with a little bit of help from you guys. Okay, I'm not quite sure what happened then. The camera just stopped recording by itself, technical difficulties. Okay, so what was I saying? I think I was asking you to help me. So I'm not really good at the game side of it for working out the stats on what's the best thing. So if you could, in the comments section, put down what you think are the best anti-infantry options for the legionaries. So is it the plasma gun or the flamer, that kind of thing? And that would be really helpful. I'm more about the actual the hobby side of like the models and painting, that kind of thing. So yeah, if you can do that, that'd be super helpful. I'm just going to crack on with making the models, and yeah, by the end of this project, hopefully I shall have a really awesome Chaos Space Marine army. Fingers crossed. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I picked out the miniatures that I want to work with. I changed my mind a couple of times as I was going through the options. I realised I actually had two that already had chain swords, so if I'd go with those, it makes it a little bit less work down the line. One of them, however, was already painted, bought off eBay. It was a paint job that the previous owner had done, so I wanted to strip that off. So I simply used some nail varnish remover that's high acetone. The acetone is the thing to look for. If you get a low acetone nail varnish remover, it won't work. But with a nail varnish remover and a simple scrubbing brush, within 30 seconds all the paint was stripped off. It's that simple, you just scrub it. However, always wear protective gear, rubber gloves, well ventilated area, all that kind of thing. Look after yourselves, people. Okay, I've just realised one of these miniatures has, let me get in closer. He has the book on his belt. So he's going to have the balefire tome. So in actual fact, he's going to be changing his bolt gun for the balefire tome, which means he can't change his bolt gun for the chainsword. So I have to choose which one of these I'm going to snip off. So I'm going to remove the chainsword because he's going to keep the balefire tome, and then yeah, I'll replace that with some kind of close combat weapon or something. So then this chainsword can then be donated to a different model, so I'm going to have to swap them again, basically. So bye-bye this guy, and yeah, let's pick a different model instead. So I've got to be honest, I wasn't actually planning on going straight ahead and making the first guy. I just wanted to take off the arm and get that ready for the conversion. But once I got started, I just kind of got carried away. So here's the first guy that I made. It's straightforward enough, really. I just stuck on the arm that I'd taken off from the other model, and then I gave him a head. I believe it's an old head from the old fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, some kind of Chaos Champion or Chaos Knight or something like that. So I just stuck that on, and then a little bit of bicarbonate of soda and super glue just to bulk out the neck. I'm going to go ahead with some green stuff to bulk out a little bit further, and then just a standard Space Marine arm, Chaos Space Marine arm from some old model as well, and a pistol from, I think it's a new Raptors kit. I'm not quite sure where that came from. I've just got a bunch of like random little plastic parts as well, so some of the bits I know where they came from, some of the bits I don't. So the second model, this is the one that was painted, that I stripped the paint from. This was really straightforward, as it just needed a new arm and a backpack, really. This is just your classic Chaos Space Marine. There's not really anything else to say on that one. Model number 3 needed a little bit more work doing to it, as the arm had been completely cut off. I believe the original model had a bionic arm, but by the time I got it, the arm was already missing. So I've just pinned it into place for the moment. I may or may not attempt to recreate the bionic-ness of the arm, or I may just make a standard arm. Anyway, it's pinned in place. That's all that's required for the moment. I'm going to go back and green stuff on all of them soon. So the chainsword is actually an Eldar chainsword. I'm not quite sure which model it came from. I won't say it's a Howling Banshee, but at the same time I think Howling Banshees didn't have chainswords. They were just like swords. So anyway, it's an Eldar chainsword though. So I just filed off the Eldar symbols, and I'm going to do a bit more work on that once I get going with the green stuff. Speaking of filing off though, this one had the Imperial Aquila, so that needed to be filed away. So I just filed that one off by hand, and also on his head, I believe. Yeah, this is one that had the some kind of like a imperial wreath around his head, so I filed that off as well. I'm going to do something else with his head crest. I'm thinking like this could have like a cool like punk rock kind of mohawk thing going off. Not sure though, but yeah, I like the idea of it, you know, the old chaos mohawk. So it may get that, it may not sure. Model 4 is your classic Beaky. I love the Beaky models. I've got to admit, they've always been my favourites. You can't beat a Beaky. You don't see many Beaky Chaos Beakies, so I definitely want to have a couple of them in the army. Anyway, this one, it just needed arms really, and then he's good to go. However, he did have some, not Imperial, but I believe he's actually Blood Angels originally. He had a couple of like teardrop emblems hanging from his belt. So again, got the files out for that and removed those. That's all the work that really needed to be done on this one. So yeah, just stuck on the arms. Just, you know, chose the best arms for the pose really. I like my models to look more relaxed rather than charging in and being all rah and shouting and sort of thing. So yeah, I like to have the arms down by the side, like they're just sort of surveying the landscape and like picking out, right, who am I going to slaughter next, you know, that kind of thing. So I think I captured that with this guy. This one's got actually one of the older bolt pistols on there. I like the old bolt pistols. They're kind of big and chunky. I like a chunky bolt pistol. The last model, okay, so this was a Legion of the Damned model. It had a really cool pose. Again, it's that thing of just like calmly walking into battle rather than being, you know, charging in and shouting and stuff. I don't really like the war cry pose. I much prefer, just as I say, the casual walking in, I'm going to slaughter you all, and it's just another day in the office. I decided I wanted him to be Khorne, so yeah, I took an old plastic Khorne head and just sort of trimmed out the inside. Originally I was going to leave more of the helmet of the plastic model and make this larger, but I just kept cutting and trimming until I ended up just having the headdress parts sticking out onto, stuck out on this model. And then, sorry, I'm waffling a little bit, I'm going to have to try and rein that in. Okay, reining in. I then took one of the arms and I wanted it to be without armour, so I took a standard model from, it's an old, it may have been Slave of Darkness, the old plastic model, and I used that for the arm on the left arm with the sword. I wanted at least one. Okay, so here's the thing, I'm thinking ahead to the actual aspiring champion for the squad, and I'm thinking for the aspiring champion whether or not to go for a Khorne guy like this. Except for the aspiring champion, I'm thinking having both arms being without any armour. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. So you know when I asked at the beginning if you could suggest what's the best anti-infantry weapon, so you know for these guys to actually get ahead, and you know these are the ones charging in against other infantry. So also, what do you reckon I should do for the aspiring champion? Do you think I should go for Khorne Berserker style, or perhaps like try and like subvert expectations, instead of going for Khorne Berserker as the leader of the close combat squad, maybe having like, you know, a Nurgle close combat guy, or a Slaneshi close combat guy, or a Tzeentch close combat guy, you know? So instead of being like Tzeentch all magic and stuff, we've got a Tzeentch Berserker kind of thing leading the squad. What do you think? What do you think I should do for the aspiring champion? So that's what I need to know. Aspiring champion, what do I need for that? And also the best weapons, special weapons for the anti-infantry option. Anyway, back onto this model. This model had the big Aquila on his chest I need to file down. It was around about this time that I remembered I had the rotary tool. So yeah, I got that out and started filing this down. The rotary tool, I've got to say that's amazing. I can't believe I've just been using the hand files all this time when the rotary tool, and nowadays are so cheap. The one I got was just some, you know, Dremel knockoff from Temu, and it does the job amazingly. Anyway, I also use the rotary tool to take down the shoulder pad on the left shoulder. That's like the really old Chaos Warrior shoulder pad. So that's what the backpack could fit, because the backpack just couldn't fit between those shoulder pads. I'm not quite sure where the backpack came from. I think it's from one of the new Harvest Service kits. But anyway, it seemed to fit, and fit thematically, but also it fit between the shoulder pads, or the shoulder pauldrons. Okay, so I'm now going to start with the green stuffing and doing some other details. One of the things I want to do is to give them all skull trophies. That's going to be a theme throughout the army. Again, it's that Ironbone Lords, part of the Ironbone. Okay, so in universe, in my head, they've taken the Ironbone Covenant, which is like the pact where they all work together for the common good, but they make offerings to the dark gods. So it's Ironbone because they're actually giving bones to the gods in order to make themselves made of iron and, you know, strong kind of thing. So I want them all to have like skull trophies, so I'm going to be adding some skulls onto them and working out a few other details. A couple of them have also got bolt pistols holstered on their belts, so I'm going to remove those because they're all holding the bolt pistols. You know, it's like they've got 2 bolt pistols. I may leave them. They can have 2 bolt pistols, surely. Anyway, I'll be looking at that. But yeah, first thing though is to tidy up the remaining plastic, do some green stuffing, and add some skulls. That's going to be 2 points. Lots of skulls. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to glue them onto the bases. Just going to snip off the tag and then super glue them directly onto the base, using a little bit of bicarbonate of soda, which is going to give it a little bit of extra grip, but also adds a bit of texture to the base. Then for the rest of the base, I'm going to use some of my all-purpose dirt to actually texture the base itself. I need to show you my all-purpose dirt recipe. This is my all-purpose dirt. I use bicarbonate soda just as a base, mixing some poppy seeds, ground up some black peppercorn, and grind up the coriander seeds as well. Mix it all together. Gives a good variation of textures, and it's better than just digging up sand and stuff from the garden. In here I have just isopropyl alcohol mixed with water. People sometimes call that wet water. You also call it wet water when you have water mixed with a little bit of washing up liquid. Wet water is basically water mixed with something else that makes it a bit more, makes it flow that little bit more easily. So I'm using isopropyl alcohol and water simply because I've already got it mixed up, because I use it to wash down my work surface when I've been chucking bicarbonate soda and stuff like that all over the place. So what I'm going to do now is just use the isopropyl alcohol mixed with the water, the wet water, and here I've got some PVA glue or white glue, wood glue. It's basically the same stuff. I'm just going to use it to seal the all-purpose dirt. So it's just spray it with the isopropyl alcohol and water, and then add a little bit of the watered down PVA glue, and then the wet water basically makes the glue spread out that bit quicker and gets more coverage out of it, and then that should seal in all the particles of bicarbonate soda and so on. I've done this on a larger scale for, like, you know, grass and flocking on scenic bases, not scenic bases, sorry, on scenery. I've not used it on the bases before, so I'm actually experimenting with the bases now. So fingers crossed I don't mess it up. Okay, so I think that's worked. Unfortunately, they're too wet for me to actually do any more work on with the green stuffing or adding details, that kind of thing. Now the problem is tonight's my last night off. I work 4 on 4 offs, and I do these 12-hour shifts, so when I'm working with like travelling to work and all the rest of it, I don't really get time to do hobby stuff when I'm on my 4 on shifts. So I'm going to try using a hairdryer to get these dried off now, and if they don't dry off enough for me to be able to work on, then that's it. I'm out of hobby times until until I finish my 4 ons. So that's going to be the end of my, my working on these guys until I've done my my 4 working days. Let's see if the hairdryer speeds things up. Okay, that has worked out perfectly. I mean, it's dried so I can carry on working with them, but also it's sealed it down, so now when I come to paint it, it's not going to get like dusty particulates into the paint, making, you know, so the paint can stick more firmly and I know exactly what's on there. Like, it's just, I'm so happy that that's worked, because now I can carry on working with them and I don't have to wait until I finish my next fortnight's working shifts. So yeah, hopefully I can get a bit more green stuffing done and these are going to start looking like somewhere near completed. Okay, best hurry up, I'm running out of time. I've also got my box of skulls as well, can't forget that. I've actually, speaking of the skulls, there's my little, I got some staples. Okay, hear me out on this. Staples, these are what just while I was removing some staples at work, so I could do some scanning, I thought, now if I keep hold of these, then I can use them to put through the skulls, and then at this scale it'll look like it's some kind of like strap, like, you know, the skulls attached to leather straps or something like that. So yeah, everybody at work was looking at me rather strange as I was scooping up all these staples and putting them in my pocket. But you know, you got to do what you got to do for your hobby. I don't really like to plan ahead too much. I'm much more of a wing it and see how it goes, that kind of person. Just in 2 minds about what to see. The thing is, where the glue, cause I had to glue it back on the sword because that was kind of wobbly, but just where the glue is now, that does actually look like a nice shape. I don't know if, can you see that? I kind of like the shape of that already, so I'm a little bit hesitant to actually do anything to that. It looks kind of cool as it is. It's like strangely thin. I don't know. I'm going to put that one down and come back to that. No, I'm not. Okay, because on his chest plate, where I obviously removed the aquila and, you know, the other details. Come on, focus. There we go. So his chest plate, where that's bare, I'm going to sort of make some chaosy kind of pattern on there, build up some kind of arm. You know, like on the pauldron where it's got like the spiky bits. I think I'm going to do something like that around the edges of the breastplate there, the chest plate. Oh, and also this is going to be the mohawk guy, isn't it? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, the green stuff's starting to go really hard now, and it's really difficult to work with. Yeah, that's really firming up. So my leftover green stuff, I've been making this wall brick pattern roller. I've not actually been doing any green stuffing for a while, so this has not been growing much. But yeah, any leftover, I just keep adding lines onto this, and I'm slowly building up my own little brick roller. It'll get there eventually. So while I'm doing that, then if I talk you through what I've done. So who did I start with? So I started with the mohawk guy. I decided I would leave the bionic arm as it is. So I just gave him the mohawk and also a couple of ridges around the chest plate, just to give that, like, you know, like it's got the chunky, you know, chaos pattern, you know. What's that called? The raised edges, bevel? No, bevel is that on the inside. I don't know. You know what I mean, though. That kind of pattern on the armor. Then on the classic chaos guy, he just had like a big flat part on his backpack. So I just sort of filled in the gap on the back part just to make it look like there's some pipes or something there. So it wasn't just like a big flat space. Then on the corn guy, much like the mohawk guy, I wanted him to just have a something on his chest, just some kind of decoration, so it was too plain where I'd filed off the Aquila. So So I just started putting down original. I was just going to put something similar to the pauldrons where there's like a pattern around the edges. I was just going to do something like that. But then as I was working with the green stuff, it just, well, because it's from a Legion of the Damned and they've got the bones on, I thought maybe I can incorporate some kind of bone design to it. And as I was working with the green stuff, it just sort of naturally became kind of a ribcage kind of pattern, which is kind of cool. Then on the beaky guy, didn't really need to do much with him, but there was like one part of his helmet that just looked really, really bare. It's just the pose that he's in. He's turning his helmet towards you to see, but there's nothing there. So I thought I'd put something on there. I wasn't sure what to put. Maybe I was thinking maybe a horn, or maybe some kind of mutation like an eye or something like that growing out of the side of his head. But once again, when I was working the green stuff, as is often the case, it just naturally became a Chaos Undivided star. And yeah, I thought that's kind of a nice little feature on there. So yeah, it's kind of a cool little design on his helmet. And then last of all, the guy with the horns and the old knight head. I just needed to fill in the neck part on that. So what I did is like build up the kind of a gorget kind of area around the top of his chest plate. I was going to build up a little bit more, but as I say, the green stuff's gone hard now. It's gone off. Can't really work with it anymore. So I might go back and do a little bit more later. I think I'm just going to add a few skulls. That's me done for a few days now, so I've got to go to work and earn some pennies. So when I return though, I'll be cracking on with the other half of this 10-man squad. As I said at the beginning though, can you give me some suggestions? This is a combat squad, so what are the best special weapons for like anti-infantry to give them that little boost in close combat or before they get into combat? And then also the aspiring champion. As this close combat squad, do you think should go for the Khorne Berserker, or maybe go for something like a Tzeentch guy who's also a Berserker, but Tzeentch instead of Khorne? Because they're not normally berserkers, that's my thinking. You get the idea. So, yeah, let me know what you think I should do with the other half of this squad, and I'll be back in a few days. You got me. Okay, you win.